Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another CommerceIQ Retail News Roundup. I'm CommerceIQ's Head of Industry Insights, Tim Campbell. Today we have another 4 articles for you to take a look at and read to better understand the state of retail e-commerce as of the start of this week. So let's get into it. I'm just going to share my screen here, and you can see the 4 articles. So these 4 articles, the links to all of them are in the comments. Just check out the comment section off to the side if you want to read any of these articles. And the first one, no surprise, is about the news that dominated the latter half of last week, and that's Kroger agrees to buy rival grocery company Albertsons for $24.6 billion. And this article in particular is from CNBC because it gives a good overview of a lot of the key elements of this deal that could go through. A few of my own thoughts here in terms of what you want to pay attention to. First off, keep in mind that grocery competition is very much a local affair. It doesn't really looked at on the national level because you buy groceries locally. You don't necessarily buy something from across the country and have it shipped to you. What you care about is the groceries available right in your neighborhood or in a very close proximity to where you live. That being said, Kroger and Albertsons, they tend to occupy different geographies. Not all the time, that they overlap in some geographies on the West Coast and elsewhere. But by and large, their home bases, their areas where they have the most stores tend to be pretty separate. That leads to a few interesting things. One is that the combined entity would have an interesting look at perhaps close to a national look at the U.S. grocery shopper once their markets are combined. Because so many other grocers tend to be a bit more local or don't span across the U.S., that is a bit of a rarity to have that much data at your fingertips to get a national look at U.S. grocery, or at least a look at kind of different regional breakdowns in terms of how they compare to other regions. That has impact on personalization for how brands can interact with shoppers and how they can reach shoppers that sell through Kroger and Albertsons. And it also means a lot for retail media as well, how you reach shoppers regionally, but through one platform, across the nation. The other thing I want to pay attention to here and what this means is that I expect limited resistance from the FTC because, again, it's not so much that Kroger and Albertsons are combining their shares all that much in that many markets. It's more like Kroger, by acquiring Albertsons, is entering new markets where it previously didn't have a presence. Where it does have where one already had a presence and the other is being added onto it, where the markets do overlap, I expect the FTC to mandate selling off or divesting stores. It'll be interesting to see who picks them up as well. Beyond just the market, the complementary markets that they operate in, another interesting thing is that the models are a bit different, right? So Kroger tends to operate on a high or fast volume, low margin model, more so than Albertsons. Kroger just does more volume that enables that model. And it'll be interesting to see if it brings that model to Albertsons or can enable it for Albertsons. Albertsons, sales not as high, and they have higher margins as a result. Could be interesting. Could actually make the national grocery market more competitive, or at least a bunch of local markets more competitive, because it means that Albertsons stores could lower their prices, have slimmer margins, but could sell more as a result if Kroger really doubles down on that model with acquired Albertsons banners. So cool to keep an eye on that as well. It does mean, I think, that I think we're going to be seeing a focus more broadly in retail, on smaller margins as a whole. And I think this is one example of how retail aggregation and consolidation, could lead to that. So good article that goes over kind of some of the high points, adding in my own commentary in there as well. The other article here, and you will need a subscription to see this, but it's Bloomberg, and if you read it, it's interesting because this is kind of the latest in I would say a line of articles really from different sources that basically all say the rise of online shopping and the huge boost that happened over 2020 and 2021. Well, it was thought that would be a long-term boost, accelerating online sales from like a 5-year boost happening in 6 months, and now it's just at a permanently higher level. These articles make the case that really, we're falling back down to normal levels, and it didn't have a big long-term impact on online sales with the rise of store, back to the return to store shopping that happened earlier in the first half of 2022. I would say yes, that's true. Those forecasts were wildly optimistic, except A few exceptions to that. One is that CapEx and investment over the past 2 years in e-commerce capacity and technology has been extremely elevated. And I think just the fact that it's been so much has been invested in that, and that means faster shipping times, it means, greater, more shopper friendly features, that will drive demand a little bit as well as the fact that some of the gains in grocery were permanent, and I don't think those are going away ever. So it's not that it didn't have an impact; it's that impact is a bit more nuanced and a bit more limited. But also, it's very hard to provide a counterfactually. If I think that online grocery shopping is higher, or just online shopping in general is higher because of COVID, in 2025, it's very hard to say, well, what would online growth have been in 2025, had the pandemic never occurred. So perhaps it's more of an interesting point to think about rather than something that can be proven. But still, the investment in technology and the investment and the rise in grocery shopping, I think, are both things that were permanently impacted and accelerated due to the pandemic. But a good look at kind of another opinion in this article too. Another article here, the third article that we have for you is from Retail Dive, and it's kind of summarizing Adobe's recently released holiday results. Online holiday spending will near 210 billion this year, according to Adobe, according to Retail Dive. Let me kind of list the highlights here, but it's interesting because of how grim this news is. That figure represents about 2.5% increase year over year, considering that inflation as of September is still running at about 8.8%. That is significantly lower unit volume than we had last year. Shoppers are trying to pull back. It's only inflation that is forcing them to spend more than they were last year, which is not a spot that you want to be in as an economy. So a few other interesting points: Cyber Monday growing faster than Black Friday. Native online shopping holidays going faster than in-store shopping holidays. No surprise there, I would say. And also discounts. The return of discounts is expected. We've seen in our own data, not even Adobe, but our own data at CommerceIQ, we've seen discounts really take a backseat to ad spend over the past 2 years, and now discounts could be making a return. We've already this year seen them make a return for some key holiday shopping periods. It will be interesting to see what happens on Black Friday and Cyber Monday as well. And then the last article here is from the Guardian, and it's not so much an economic or retail e-commerce article. It's really more of a personal look, personal stories about the impact of buy now, pay later. Saying the title of the article, it's just so easy, isn't it? How buy now, pay later can leave Britons struggling with debt. And it is a look at, its impact in Europe, its impact in the UK, but I think it stretches more broadly across that as well, because and this goes to something that I think is happening, is that I think retail demand could be headed for a significant deceleration, if not decline, in unit volumes, because I think consumers are exhausting their savings, they're exhausting their traditional means of financing their purchases, and they're turning to things like buy now, pay later to help finance those purchases, whether they're wants or needs even. And so I think this is a good anecdotal, qualitative, look at that phenomenon, but I think it could mean that we're headed for, we are headed for a more proper recession if we're not already in one. So good article, good to take a look at. That sums up our 4 articles to read. If you want to take a look, the articles are off to the side in the comment section if you want to find those links. But until we present again next time, have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you next week.